Rich,
Hi.
how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. We're sitting in the same spots, but I'm doing the interview more so this time. I wanted to hear from you because you kind of fascinate me in the sense that I've known for quite a while that you were into Bitcoin, knew that you're into building cool domes, met you through building the domes, and that was really awesome. It was it's felt like sometimes there's days like where I feel like there's like something special to it and I'm not really sure why, and then some time goes by and so meeting you was really interesting because I knew you're into Bitcoin, and like one of the first things when we like reconnected was like the BIP 110 thing came up, and you kind of asked me my thoughts on it or whatever, and I told you some of my feelings or whatever, and somewhere along the way, and it seemed pretty quickly, it seemed to like kind of like your point of view on Bitcoin and how you thought it could be used and like how you saw its potential seemed to change, and it seemed to start connecting more to what's happening here locally, and we kind of seem to be coming to this understanding together at the same time from different perspectives. And I just thought it was really fascinating, and we've been wanting to talk and connect now and be reflections and figure out how to move forward around us to get the word out there. And I want to hear a little bit about your story because you told me a few things that were like kind of key, I think key moments to maybe like helping you see what's going on in Bitcoin differently. And I want to get the word out there more about what's happening in Bitcoin. I think it's something that a lot of people aren't talking about. So I just kind of want to hear your perspective and maybe start with how you kind of came into this world, into the Bitcoin world.
Into Bitcoin world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really got into it in 2020, but there was a lot of things that had happened before that even like prepared my mind to understand why something like Bitcoin even exists or why it's important. So really this goes all the way back to 2012. I volunteered in a very poor part of Philadelphia, which I grew up in like suburban Philadelphia, and I lived in a community for people recovering from drug and alcohol addiction for only 3 months, but it was such a life-changing experience for me because it was like an hour from where I'd grown up, but it was just totally different than the suburban lifestyle that I lived, where like I never had experienced like hunger or like lack of any physical needs. And I was living in basically the ghetto of Philadelphia and surrounded by just poverty, and I was living there, and that just was total eye-opening experience for me, and just it hit me a lot different. So when I left there, I became obsessed with poverty and like, why does poverty exist? Because it seemed to me that it didn't seem, I saw that there's like a humanitarian crisis happening in Philadelphia and every city in the country, and now like rural, it's spreading really, like rural areas and the Rust Belt and all these places with the opioid epidemic. It's like there's a life or death humanitarian crisis happening all over the United States, which is supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world. And then if you think about other countries like Mexico or anywhere, the gang violence and all this stuff, it's just like, I was living in such a bubble my whole life, and that just got shattered. So then I'm like searching for answers, like, why is this happening? So that led me to, I guess in particular, I was focused on poverty, and eventually I came across what is the central bank? And again, that was all new to me. So that was the answer to me. That was where the income inequality was coming from, because I learned that the central banks just set arbitrary interest rates. Yeah. This was back
you found the leak in the ship.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the spot.
That was it.
Like,
That's the problem.
Yeah, the money printer, people decide,
Yes.
Yeah, that'll mess things up.
Yeah. And at the time, I had graduated college pretty recently, and I didn't fortunately have to take out student loans, but like at the time, to get a student loan from the federal government, you were paying 6% interest on that, and interest rates were zero still after the financial crisis for banks. And that to me was everything in a nutshell. Like, if you're a private financial institution, you were getting a 0% interest loan from the government, which is supposedly a public institution. And if you're an actual human being trying to in theory better yourself through an education, you're paying 6%, and that that's where it's coming from.
That's disparity, right?
It's disparity.
That's
yes,
a disparity,
100%.
literally, like at the core.
That's the core. That's the
Yeah.
core inequality.
Yeah.
So I, then I went down the whole rabbit hole of the Federal Reserve and like how that was formed and the gold confiscation, all this stuff, and I really just started thinking about the U.S. dollar and everything, and it has inequality baked into it. And it's just something on a piece of paper. We left the gold standard in the 70s, and now it's a fiat currency, which is just because the government says it's worth, and we all have this shared belief or something that it's worth something. So that was all that. I learned a lot about that from Max Kaiser, who had a show on RT at the time, and he had worked on Wall Street before, but had a very like outside perspective on it. So he was really good at explaining those things. And at the time, he was really into gold, and he talked about Bitcoin. And I just kind of dismissed. I didn't know what Bitcoin was. I was just like, what is this internet money? And I just didn't look into it. So it really wasn't until 2020 when the pandemic happened. I was listening to Max Kaiser to kind of understand what was happening, and he was mostly just talking about Bitcoin, and that's when the halving happened. Dramatic timing, and just with where I was at financially, personally, they cut interest rates to 0. So then I'm looking at my bank account. I had some extra money really for the first time. I'm like, I'm not just gonna let it sit there and waste away to inflation. And that's when I really looked at Bitcoin, and then I was really blown away by Bitcoin. And in particular, the design to me just replicates nature in a lot of ways, in a really beautiful and elegant way. And that's why I bought into it. Specifically, if you're running a full node, it has an entire copy of the entire blockchain there. So each one part of the thing contains the entire blueprint of the bigger thing in it.
Yeah.
But it's also not fully realized until it is a real decentralized system running globally. So I thought that was really cool. And then also learning about what mining actually is and how it's physically tied to physical energy resources, and that people are spending real dollars or currencies to pay for the electricity to put the mining, to do the Bitcoin mining. It made it feel more real and concrete. Really the thing that put me over the edge was when Paul Tudor Jones bought Bitcoin. And he was the first big Wall Street billionaire who I had kind of heard of before. He bought Bitcoin, and then that kind of legitimized it to me a lot at the time, and that was enough to put me over the edge. And so 2020 is when I first bought some. So.
Okay, and then so first it was coming more so of a store of value.
Yeah.
So did you think? So you came to it looking at it through a lens of what do we do about poverty? And did you think of individuals and families having a way to save versus thinking of as using it as a currency? Was it more hey, this is like gold, that perspective of this is a tool for people to store their energy over time, but not did you think much of it in terms of a way of of a currency?
I mean, I guess I saw the potential. At the time, almost nobody was talking about Bitcoin. This was before. I mean, it was after the 2017 bubble, probably more people knew about it, but this was before 2021 and all this stuff. So it was just totally unknown. I mean, I saw it as a currency that we could use that wouldn't depreciate in value over time.
Yeah.
And that has the ability to just revolutionize a lot of things.
Yeah.
Our currencies now, they're designed for they're designed for people who borrow money, because if the money's losing value, then if you're borrowing, you have less to pay back in the future.
Yeah. So
it's actually penalizing people who, like me, I was trying to save money and be conservative, but you get penalized with an inflationary currency. So I mean, that wasn't really something that was happening in the near term at the time.
And it wasn't happening in the world. I think it's interesting thinking about that. So for me, it's it's we talked about it, oh, this could be a currency, but no one's doing it. It's generally, especially back then, well, I don't know when lightning started exactly, but when I got in here, there was no lightning.
It wasn't
so
really.
It was we didn't necessarily even know how it would scale or anything. So that makes it feel a lot more like a store of value than potentially something that zaps around at the speed of light. And I think that's I think that's been everybody's journey. It's there's potential there, but will we ever get there?
Right. I did see it as the best store of value for me, and then also it can be used as a global currency.
Yeah.
But definitely it was
even if it's just a way to send around our savings and store it, that by itself is already, pretty intriguing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So so let's fast forward a little bit and get into like current times and the Bitcoin network and where we're at. And what would you say were some pivotal moments for you? Or actually, maybe we should talk about first your background with software development and your time. And will you talk about the story with the boss?
Yeah.
Yeah, the software, yeah, just tell me about that.
Yeah, I took a coding challenge earlier this year. It's run by Chain Code Labs, which I laugh now knowing more about Chain Code Labs.
Right, yeah, so it's good. Kind of like, let's hear the perspective at the time and then we'll make the connections.
Yeah, well, I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
I made my money as a web developer working with Magento, which is an open source e-commerce platform. So mostly PHP, but JavaScript. But like, it's been helpful because I know how to like operate on a Linux server and use the command line. I know about Docker and Git and all this stuff. So with this project, like, I reached the point where I needed more money, and fortunately I did end up getting a job back doing web development. But right around when I started looking for a job, this boss challenge went live around the holidays of this past year, and it's basically a competition to get a grant to work on Bitcoin open source projects.
Mm-hmm.
And it's designed to people looking for a career change. And I was like, this is perfect because it's something I believe in. I'd rather be working on Bitcoin. What I'm doing now is good in some ways, but it is just a lot of a paycheck. Bitcoin, I started hearing about, when I got on Nostr around the same time, I was hearing about the value for value concept. And it's like, say I'm working on Bitcoin, I'm providing actual value versus just a purely profit making business or something. And so the open source software, there's no money in that, but the program, there's like, Chain Code Labs or other groups will give grants to developers to work on those. So yeah, I didn't know anything about Bitcoin development really. Even getting into the challenge was hard because you had to go through like a pre-challenge. And then the actual challenge itself, I decided to try to learn Rust. So I knew it was a tall order because there was like 600 people in it, and there's like 10 people that end up with a grant. But I learned a lot. It was really well set up. Like they gave you coding challenges, and I work well because you want to finish a challenge, and then you're just required to learn like all these things about Bitcoin. Like one of the challenges, you were like building a transaction manually piece by piece. Like, so you really had to understand like what does each piece of a transaction mean, and then you're building it in hex, and it's like a little endian, and you're like manually constructing an entire transaction. And then they had this cool server set up with a blockchain where like you would see if your transaction was valid, and then if it was, like you automatically make it to the next challenge.
Oh, wow.
So it was really cool.
Yeah.
I guess the downside was like they were always ambiguous, like how many challenges you need to finish, to make it to the next round. They wouldn't give you a straight answer. So I was like, I'm just going to try to learn Rust because that's also being widely used. Bitcoin's written in C. For people who don't know, like a lot of programs are written in C and C++. I guess Bitcoin's written in C++. I should know that. These languages that have been around for a long time that are very fast, but they have these memory leak issues. And Rust was designed to run just as fast, but actually it prevents you from coding those problems into the code. So it's a lot of major companies are switching from C to Rust. So I was like, I might as well just learn that at the same time. So that slowed me down a lot. Plus just being totally new, I made it through like 3 challenges, and I was working on the 4th one around the deadline, and all of a sudden they just cut off like everything. Without any, they said what day the first round was ending.
They cut like everyone was done?
Yeah, like the first round, it just ended, and I was like mid working on the the challenge, and then the thing was like when you passed a challenge, you would get into the Discord chat for the next one, and so I only got so far, and then they were just like, okay, well like I kind of had the expected outcome. The way they handled it was just weird because they were never like, hey, sorry you didn't make it to the second round. They wouldn't even like say that. They weren't even revealing like how many challenges you had to get through. But
yeah, so it's kind of like it could have been anything. Like you really don't know what any of your goals are exactly, or what the roles. Yeah,
like I guess there were 6 like it turns out you had to make it through like 6 challenges to get to the next round. I don't know. It just struck me as strange. It left a bad taste in my mouth because they were never like, hey, like, thanks for participating. They did give you other free options to like keep going, and I did start to take a Lightning course at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It just left a weird taste in my mouth because like I'd put a bunch of effort into that, and then just to kind of cut you off and like that's it, you know.
Yeah.
But it was a free program, and I guess it's like, how is this free, you know? And I guess they say like if it's free, you're the product or something. So I didn't know what was going on. I think now, especially then going through the lightning course, it struck me as they're kind of, I don't know, I don't like talking negatively about programs or something, but I felt like, I don't even know how to say it. Like, they're obviously looking for talented developers who know what they're doing. I don't know.
It feel predatory in some kind of way or something? Or they were taking something, or?
It felt to me like I guess I wrote this recently. They were looking for like the devs who would jump the highest when.
Oh, they're looking for yes men. That'll go with the crowd.
Kind of what I started feeling like, because this lightning course that I took, again, was a graded thing, and it's like, why are we even have a score? Like, I'm just trying to learn this thing. And so they would have these weekly discussions, and like you were graded on how much you were speaking during the meeting. And I was like, it was leading to people answering the same question like 2 and 3 times.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a waste of time. So I was just sitting there not saying anything extra, and they were calling me out like, hey, like you need to be wanting to contribute more. And I'm like, this is bizarre. So that really made me feel like they were just looking for people who were kind of like being teacher's pet kind of people, or like sucking up sort of.
And you had that feeling at that time.
More strongly in the lightning thing. I just stopped going because I was like, this is ridiculous. I was just sitting there for 30 minutes hearing the same question answered 3 times, and that's what they were going for, you know? So I was like, this is weird. So the whole thing at that point, I was like, this is
And who was it behind it again? The name?
Well, Chain Code Labs was running the Boss Challenge, and then this other organization was called Bit Shala, which is based in India. So there's these other organizations that were based globally, which again, everything's free, which is great. It just seemed to me at that point they were looking for a certain type of person, and I was like, that's not me. So
yeah.
And now learning more about Chain Code Labs and this whole op return controversy and their connections to stuff, it kind of makes sense, which we can get into or not, but
yeah. Well, I would like to get into it. It's one of the things that I was interested to hear. But I mean, I feel like the more connections we draw, the more stories we tell, the more perspectives, you know, that I'm pretty passionate about the, you know, what's happening right now. And I don't feel like there's a lot of voices sharing their perspectives on how they're maybe looking at Bitcoin differently than most of the people. And I think, you know, that's a little glimpse behind the curtain in a sense. Just the fact that to me that stood out as like, oh, it's interesting, like that you got that feeling from that, and now fast forward we're here. Kind of feels like a seed was planted. Yeah. And so like fast forwarding, when like how long has it been, like, let's say, like since that moment, since you left that, and since you had those feelings, has there been any thoughts in your brain about issues behind core, or, you know, the fiatness of Bitcoin, or have you felt pretty solid about it? Has it been in your awareness much?
I mean, you were honestly the first person, I think when we followed each other on Nostr in February, you were posting about BIP 110 all the time. I didn't even know what BIP 110 was. Actually, during the Boss Challenge, somebody, one of again, this is funny in hindsight, one of the challenges, you had to like code your name in the op return of a transaction, and then they had a page that would show everyone's name on there, and somebody, they were like, I hate what you guys have done with op return, you know, I'm putting my filters up, and they kind of quit the program.
Really?
And at the time, I didn't even know, like, I was like, what was that about?
And that was when? 2022?
That was back in January.
Oh, that was this year?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why I thought that was a while ago. Certainly. Okay, well that makes even more sense. That's wild, because that really puts it in the because that was after. Oh God, it's all up.
It was after.
When did V30 happen?
It was after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy that this has been going on for so long.
Yeah.
I've been drowning in it. It's like something that takes up a lot of space. So it's like, how long have we been? You know, and I think that it's just something we're gonna have to keep fighting for Bitcoin. You know, like I think, you know, this won't be the last thing that tries to make this thing not happen in one way or another. But so being on Nostr, and you've heard about BIP 110 through Nostr, was there any particular moment that made you like want to, or any ideas or anything that made you like consider there might be a reason to learn about BIP 110 or.
I mean, you posting about it, I was like, that seems like something I should know more about. And then that thing happening during the Boss Challenge, I was like, I should know about that, I think. And then that's when I saw like Bitcoin Knots was running, and it kind of seemed like this controversial thing. And I was like,
yeah,
it's not really running the official Bitcoin. So like Bitcoin Core was upset about it. And then I didn't really understand why it even existed. And honestly, like I just got busy with the house again after that. When I didn't make it to the second round, and then I've just been working on the house. I got this other job, and then again, funny timing. I take the Vipassana course. You have your solar panels blow away,
yeah.
And then we put this Cochise County Freedom Tech thing together, and like how I was so oblivious. Like you were here the day before the soft fork was going to be activated last weekend, and I didn't even know that was happening the next day.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but I was watching the live stream, and I think conceptually, I sort of understood that like most regular people were on the side of BIP 110, and that Bitcoin Core was being seen as like a corporate thing by a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I think as somebody still holding a lot of my life savings in Bitcoin, I'm sort of, I was anti like, let's not rock the boat, like. I need that, to be here.
Yeah.
If there's a split, that could throw a lot of stuff up in the air. So also talking to you has helped me a lot with that, because you have this attitude of like everything works out. Really, you have to do what you think is right, and it's going to work out. Like the money is such a trivial thing in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, in a sense.
So I think good timing, because coming out of Vipassana, I was way more open to a lot of things and just like trust my intuition and instincts mindset. So it was really good timing, and then once the BIP 110 thing happened and it went down, I was like, definitely, well, that's messed up. It just, again, it was a very revealing thing. Like, maybe we thought the mining was too centralized, but that like confirmed it for sure.
Yeah.
So now it's just like, okay, this is the actual reality, and now it's going to happen. And then it's like, wow, like Luke and all these other people are actually going to go start a new chain and hard fork the whole project. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's a really historic moment, no matter what.
When you mentioned doing a little bit of digging into YouTube or whatever, how you came across an interview with Gloria, what's her name, Gloria Zhao?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and that was another moment.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, I'm curious kind of your perspective or what stood out to you, because I'm a very visual person, and I'm just like, the way she was speaking and everything, and I'm not technical, but I'm just like, something's weird about that.
I mean, I try not to, judge people on their external appearances or something, but you look at it, it's like, okay, there's this young, attractive woman, she just came out of college, and she's a Bitcoin Core maintainer. Like,
yeah, you expect like a weird hermit, like.
And that's what she,
yeah.
Well, she has the famous quote where she was expecting, I guess the people from Chain Code Labs, they called her to meet with her about Bitcoin Core, and she was like, I was expecting them to be some like Bitcoin maximalist carnivore, like beard.
Oh, right. That's funny that
she had this like stereotype of what a Bitcoin maximalist seemed like to her, and she was working on all kinds of other altcoin projects.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Bitcoin necessarily.
And I don't think that someone like, there's a good chance someone like her, there's like not even any ill intentions or anything. It's just like she's going up to do a job, and it's just not what she thought it was, and she's just not as cypherpunk or whatever as I thought the main developer would be.
My take on the whole situation is, they're like sock puppets, like all these developers. Even Peter Todd with the pull request he made to increase the op return, he said another developer asked him to open that PR. That's on Stacker News, and it's like, why is that happening? Why isn't this other person opening it? Why are people opening PRs for other developers?
Yeah.
My sense with Gloria, and I've seen this happen in politics, it's like there's a long-term House representative or something, they have their chosen protege, that person retires or term limited out, and they're still controlling this other person who's in there.
Yeah.
And that's my sense with getting Gloria in court as a core maintainer. It's like she's probably a really smart person, she went to UC Berkeley and all this stuff. But putting her in that position where you're working on this project that's like, I like Matthew Crater's been a great source, Bitcoin University on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a project that, in my view, could liberate humanity. Like, that's how deep it goes to me, getting out of the Federal Reserve currency system. So to put somebody, it's just too important it should be in somebody's hands who has earned trust and reputation in the Bitcoin community. They've been involved in the project for like a long time, a really long time. So just on it, it seemed really inappropriate for me. And then to see what ended up happening was like a huge disaster.
So in this transition and your thinking and becoming aware of the split and everything, another thing that you said you've gone through recently is like thinking about the value of Bitcoin differently. And I wonder, how much do you think those things go hand in hand? Do you think there's like seeing Bitcoin as valuable as a peer-to-peer currency, something that we use and actually put to work in our community? Do you think that's helps inform the opinion that, you know, maybe this fork is not such a bad thing, but it's an opportunity, or however you want to see, or however you want to talk about, you know, I don't know exactly how you would characterize it, but it's like we see it as at least a potential opportunity. It's definitely challenging and it's different and scary, but there's some positive, you know, there's like you know, there's hope for some of us. Some of us feel that there's hope. And I wonder, you know, how much tied that together that is to the idea of using Bitcoin differently. Because I think like the attachment to the fiat price is a big part of what keeps people afraid of a fork.
Yeah.
You know, and like we don't want to be like Bcash, or, you know, it's like when really like it's just very different scenarios. All these scenarios are different, and Bitcoin was designed to fork.
Right.
But yeah, did you feel that connection?
Yeah, I mean, again, it was things you had been saying that started me thinking in this direction, which you were big on. The ability to spend Bitcoin is where like the material security will come from, instead of, say, you have a big Bitcoin stash and you're like, that's how I'm going to be okay long-term materially. Like, I'm going to meet my physical needs with my Bitcoin stash. You've been preaching like spending the Bitcoin. So then that's one model. And then what if we have a local, thriving, vibrant economy?
Right. And
I am transacting with my neighbors who are growing food, or we have local people who know about healing things, and my economic interactions with my neighbors, actual people who I have relationships with, are providing my physical needs. That's providing physical security. So that to me is, I think Bitcoin uniquely can enable that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And that would make Bitcoin valuable. Like, mm-hmm. An actual decentralized Bitcoin that's being used as a peer-to-peer currency is actually valuable. And I think this is the big piece that we have been missing, and I wrote this on Nostr, is Bitcoin's biggest problem is that we can't spend it.
Yeah.
Like, I can't spend my Bitcoin. I can spend it on some things, but like, I can't go to the grocery store.
Yeah,
Rarely do it.
Yeah.
And what I wrote on Nostr is that it's not a technology problem, it's a social problem.
Yeah.
Because we don't economically transact with each other.
Yeah.
Like, I go to the supermarket and buy food, and what we need is an entirely different economic model. Like, Bitcoin, I think what I've been seeing is like, Bitcoin is a tool or technology, but it has to be part of a bigger behavior shift that also fits the peer-to-peer energy. We need a peer-to-peer marketplace and a peer-to-peer economy, mm-hmm. instead of a centralized marketplace where there's one supermarket and that's where everybody goes to buy food. It has to be more of a distributed peer-to-peer thing. So it has to go hand in hand. And that's what I've been thinking about, is like the energy matching, you know, on all levels. And that's what I like about this fork, is that it is a more grassroots energy. Before, it was just it's become a corporate entity basically, and filled with people who, what I was doing, just sitting there hoping the price will go up one day.
Yeah.
This new one is like, I'm just setting up my node, you know, like I ordered miners. It has, because we have to support it if we want it to keep going. Yeah. But we also have to have we also have to start having the economic relationships with our neighbors and our peers. Mm-hmm. But then it can be a global thing too. So that's what I think is the cool thing about it. We can still transact with people on the internet with it. So
yeah, you bring all these little micro markets
together. Exactly.
Something you said that popped out to me was like the security, and it hit me in a new way when you were describing it, where it's like, you know, think about, okay, so I live off grid, right? And you could say that's a tough way to live. If, like, what if I don't have power? It's like, well, but it's in my control, right? So like if in our community, It's like, whereas if the power goes out at the power company, I'm just screwed.
Yes.
If the dollar's worth nothing, if the banks close, we're just screwed.
Right.
If we don't have a tool. But within a community, if we actually have the tools to pick it up, that's actually more security, because now I can trade with you, you can trade with them. And outside, that bigger world doesn't have to be, obviously it always becomes relevant eventually because there's something we need to get somewhere else.
Right.
But also Bitcoin is, it's everywhere in the whole world, and we only need a certain percentage of people to get involved for it to be effective. And I think there's a big enough movement of people right now that care about it in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, my goal right now is to hear from many different people. I want to start connecting online and hear more perspectives from people that are seeing it that way, because I think they're intelligent. I think you're pretty intelligent. The fact that you went from like not being aware of this to, maybe it's not even about the intelligence, maybe it's about the meditation, maybe it's the openness, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there is like, that's another thing we resonate on. It's like, we both live pretty quiet lives, there's a lot of space, and it's like, I think that's a good place to observe and take in information. And, I definitely think we came together for some reason, and it feels like we have the opportunity in our own community to like take this beautiful thing. And I'm learning more about your knowledge. That's why I wanted to do this, because I like hearing about what you're good at, because it's like, I can't stand trying to figure out Docker or, like none of that stuff makes any sense to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not that good at that stuff. And, then you got all this building stuff going on in the community here, and it's really exciting. It's interesting that we're getting ready to do this event and all this stuff is up in the air, but like we're already like, he's working on getting miners, and we're setting up servers and nodes, and it's like, something else you said that stood out is like, we've been preaching, but now it's time to do.
Right.
I've been preaching about this for a while, but I haven't been taking Bitcoin for payments on much of anything, hardly ever, other than Noster, which I think is a cool place. It's awesome that that's happening, but I think it's time to do. And that's like, I think that's what we want to do together.
Yeah.
I think I'm interested in doing more updates as we do the meetups, and share how that comes about. And I would like to see Cochise. I think let's tie it back to Cochise again and bring it back down to ground, bring it back to earth, and remind people why Cochise is awesome. Opt-out building, freedom-minded people willing to do some work. We're talking about learning about the Meshtastic stuff and getting stuff like that set up here. It's fun to use tools, and I think we're both gonna have a lot of fun kind of figuring some of this stuff out and seeing what we can do locally.
Yeah.
And when is our meetup?
It's not this Tuesday, but the next one, the 25th.
Okay,
August
so
25th.
it's coming up. What is today? 16th?
Not sure.
Okay, 25th.
Yeah,
It's coming up.
It is the 16th.
Yeah, and I like to think that that's happening all over the world right now.
I think so.
Because when we do things, it tends like, it's like when you've ever had a good idea and then you see someone comes out with it.
Yeah.
It's like these things tend to be in the collective, and it feels like this movement is like, all right, these are the people that have like are really hardcore about this, and they're willing to kind of. It feels risky, right? It feels risky to let go of that safety net. I have another idea that I want to plug because I just like it so much, and the more I think about it, the bigger deal I think it is. I think unit bias is a huge issue for adoption. I think if we acknowledged and embraced the fact that this is a different Bitcoin, but we're denominating in sats, and sats are cheap, people would be excited to buy a bunch of sats.
Right.
$10 worth of sats. Oh man, I'm getting so many sats. And even if they do the math, it's like, oh, those sats are a lot cheaper than the other sats, right? Because at the beginning, the network's smaller and it's going to take time to build the value. But I love that idea. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think if we denominated in sats and we bought sats, you know what I mean? The unit buy, because everyone's always like, oh, Bitcoin's too expensive. Everyone says that.
Yeah.
I already missed the boat. And this, it's like, regardless of the dollar value related to Bitcoin, it's like, oh, you get a bunch of sats. But it's still the same thing,
It's the same
but
thing.
better.
Yeah.
I think at the end, the technology of Bitcoin is money is what's going to win. So I don't think the name matters, but I don't know. I like that idea, but.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it, and it's like the end person who doesn't know anything about Bitcoin, it's like they have to see some advantage. And right now it's not that different than making a payment with like PayPal or Venmo or something.
Yeah.
So I think there will come a day when it's like, we have to use, I want to do something and like Bitcoin's the only thing that works. Or I was thinking about like there's a lot of you don't need a bank account, to use that. That's a big hurdle for a lot of people out here. There is already a very cash-based economy out here, which maybe is out of necessity or maybe just philosophy. Also, people don't like digital things, or they think they might. Well, we are being being tracked and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you just have private keys and there's no social, you don't have an identity with the institution somewhere, I think would appeal to a lot of people. So I don't know. Yeah, the unit bias stuff, like, again, what you've been talking about is like, we need to stop thinking about the US dollar equivalent.
Yeah, I almost feel like ideally, like it's just that people keep asking the question, how do we list it? It's like they want it to be listed and somehow suddenly be comparable to Bitcoin and be 60,000 a coin. It's like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And I think it's like, we have to think of this as like, you can think, the real Bitcoin ethos can be there and it not be that same thing listed. It's not like it's going to replace that. At least that's not how I see it going down.
Yeah, I mean, that's something else I've been thinking about, is that, like, in my head I've been calling it an exchange attack. Yeah. Like Bitcoin has succumbed to an exchange attack where people are just, we got distracted by the appeal of like, what if it goes to $1 million? Like, I'm going to be so rich, and yeah. And then we stop thinking about it, but it's the same behavior pattern as before, and again, a passive mindset. So I've just been thinking with this split, and from my perspective at least, it's like a David versus Goliath kind of a thing. There's grassroots energy. The corporations are clearly on one side, not the other. A corporate-backed Bitcoin, that would never go over here with people living in Cochise County. Yeah. Like, it's a non-starter. Yeah. And I've also been trying to get away from the mindset of like, I'm trying to pitch this to people or something. Yeah. Like, again, I mean, this has to be a tool that is actually useful to people. And maybe it's not. At least maybe it's not now. External events could happen that push people in this direction. Like, what if there is a hyperinflation crisis, or what if the banks do start censoring more transactions or something? Like, people would start looking for alternatives. Mm-hmm. But, with the Cochise County Freedom meetup, I think it's also tricky just because Bitcoin it's kind of like we're programmed to just have an opinion about it one way or the other, and people like lump it in with crypto automatically, or like tech bros or something. And yeah. So it fits in with a family of other technologies like Nostr, or this decentralized mesh network is really interesting to me, and that's something that I think people out here would really see the value in. Oh yeah. Like, can we communicate digitally if the internet goes down? Yeah. Like, that's what we do all the time. It's like, people are trying to have their own water supply and food supply and everything, so this would be our own communication supply. And then with Bitcoin, to your point, like, that's our own digital currency too. Yeah. So anyway, that to me is what the Freedom Tech Meetup is about. It's about getting technology to, again, fit the pattern that we are already trying to live out here in Cochise County. Like, I'm going to build my own house, like I was just configuring my own Bitcoin node. And so everything kind of has to fit. And it's freedom ultimately. And yeah.
So as it relates to the fork and moving forward with that and how we get value there, I'm hearing that it's going to get value because of its usefulness. Right. And, I guess what I'm looking at is like a little bit of that noise of like, when people come in and it's like, oh, which one's the real one, or which one's a fork? And it's like, do people think that the one that's really cheap is automatically bad because it's a fork? Or how do people have that ability to tell the difference? And maybe it's just a matter of time, right? It's like maybe enough crap goes down on the legacy chain that people start considering and asking other options. I don't know, this could take a long time.
I think well, who knows?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Sometimes I don't know. Yeah. I think that,
or something comes out on the chain that's not good to have on the chain.
Right.
That could change stuff. I don't know.
Again, like, I'm looking at the people out here, just from talking to people, philosophically, people have already thought of stuff like, let's have a local currency, let's have a gold-based currency, and Bitcoin to me matches what that could be.
And really, like, within our community, it's like people are so unaware and detached from it. It's like, it's almost like you could just be like, yeah, we're using Bitcoin, and just use the new Bitcoin. Be like, these are and speak about it. It's like, yeah, and it doesn't really matter You know, because it's not like a lot of people just know, if you're not in that world, you're not going to know off the top of your head, you know, much about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in general don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
The other thing is like technology has also kind of, that has become a stereotype of like, again, just kind of infringing on privacy. I think the shift now is we have these technologies that enable more privacy because we have such capable devices in our hands with these phones and Bluetooth and everything. Like we can literally build our own communication network just on devices that we own ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's another big shift I think we can make, is like technology going from something that's eroding our quality of life and just taking our attention and taking all of our data and eavesdropping on everything, to again fitting into serving humanity and serving what we want out of life.
Yeah.
And so that's what I see, like this mesh network or Nostr or Bitcoin, I think can do all these things, but it's a tool, you know, and it's like, it's up to us how we use it. And that's what I was thinking about today when you're coming here. It's like we built this amazing thing of Bitcoin, and then we were just like happy sitting back and like admiring it, you know, and just like,
we just all wanted to get rich.
Yeah, we're just like looking, we're like, wow, like we created this beautiful thing, and like it's so nice, like don't mess it up,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But meanwhile, it's like a tool that's supposed to be used for something.
Yeah,
and that's
things that aren't growing tend to decay.
And that's right, and that's what happened, and that's why I don't even see it as a fork. It's just, you know, again,
it's just Bitcoin.
In Vipassana, they talk about things arise and pass, and like that was a phase of Bitcoin. You know, it gains Main Street adoption on Wall Street. Like we have the BlackRock ETF. Like it's in all the institutions, it's on a lot of balance sheets, and it is what it is, you know. And now, but that's not the ultimate purpose of it, I don't think. And to me, that era died last Saturday. And now I'm excited for this new thing to happen where we can actually start using it and start to actually see the benefits in our lives. And it's going to help us become more reliant on our neighbors.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting.
I have a quick question for you. So you made a point that stood out to me another time we were talking, because there's a concern about, you know, how do you overcome the lack of network effects versus what we've had, you know. And I see this as a very powerful movement, so I think we're going to immediately have some network effects, already a distributed network, but maybe it's sparse, maybe it's hundreds of miners or whatever, or thousands of machines and 1,000 nodes. I don't know how small it would be, but do you see that as an issue? Like, is there an issue, do you think, to the security, or is that just an adoption thing? Like, because in my mind, it could be small as long as it's dispersed, and that's more decentralized than a thing that has 1 million ASICs, but they're all in the same buildings.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was something else Matthew Crowder pointed out, was that there was 100,000 nodes in 2017, and there's 100,000 nodes today.
Yeah, that's not great.
So, and who's running a node? And like, I even set up a node, but it just felt like, what's really the point?
Yeah.
And now there is a point, because there isn't a Coinbase node I can connect to with this new chain. Like, we have to set up the nodes if we want it to actually survive. So I feel a sense of ownership about it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's a point for me running this node. It's kind of a rebellious thing to do, which
Yeah.
I also like. It's a way for me to fight back against everyone, you know. That's why I see this could catch on. It's like we're at this place where everyone hates the corporations. And now even Bitcoin has become co-opted by corporations. But to me, Bitcoin is designed for this. Like, I went back and looked at Pete Rizzo. He wrote this long article about Satoshi's, like the history of Satoshi's communications with people. And it was, the article was called Satoshi's Last Email or something like that, or The Last Days of Satoshi. And I mean, back in 2010 or 2011, they're like, Satoshi was just pushing code changes kind of on his own, you know. And sometimes people were like, well, like, I didn't necessarily agree to that change. And people back then were talking about like, hey, if this thing goes off the rails, we'll just fork it.
Yeah,
and that's
just the nature of software, open source software.
Yeah,
right?
And that's with Bitcoin, you know. And so there's nothing illegal that's happening.
It's kind of like, you know, Doge like forked as a joke, and then it was a meme, and then like people actually kind of had fun and used it. Like, there could be what you could call a fork that's like, oh wow, people are using it like money. Yeah. Imagine that.
Right.
And then, you know, who cares what happens with the chain as it is?
Yeah.
At least, you know, that's how I feel.
It's ultimately who has the most. There's no official Bitcoin, and there never will be. It's just who's
It's just software running on computers,
Exactly.
and it's like it's a network, right? You could chop it in half, and what exists, and
Yeah.
that could change.
And ultimately, the value is how decentralized it is, and how decentralized it is depends on how many regular people are using it and running a node.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the people power moving with the new coin. The old ones just got to stay with the corporations and people who are too lazy to do anything.
And having a fork actually kind of draws a line in the sand and says, we're not going to ask your permission.
Right.
We're going to have the Bitcoin that's best money, and these are the people that we're going to help do that because we trust them.
Yeah.
You know, Luke has a great history with Bitcoin. Like he, you know, past like whatever you might think about him personally or whatever, like he's, you know, maintained support for the network the whole time, and I think he's been pretty pivotal.
Yeah, I read the Discord every day, and it's like if he said something crazy tomorrow, like another subset of people might fork it again or say, "Hey, this is going off the rails." You know?
Yeah.
So like, it's up to. There was no central person telling you what to do. Like, everyone can do what they want. I think Luke has the right intentions. He has been very principled on this issue of Bitcoin as money versus Bitcoin becoming some data storage chain like Ethereum for a long time. So they're making very minimal changes for the new chain. It's not like they're going through and like throwing all these other changes in at the last second or something. So I'm on board with it now, but I'm always evaluating and seeing what happens. But I think your question, like, it might not survive,
Right.
Like the mining power is the big issue and the 51% attack potential is the big issue. So I don't know how that's going to play out.
That's why we got to buy up all the miners.
We have to try to buy as many. That's why I'm motivated
miners.
to get miners, running miners.
I think, like, you know, people using those miners for other shit coins might start mining on our chain. And I think right now, because it's like a small movement that basically was sparked off in a Discord room, you know. And by the way, get in touch if you want to learn, get a link to the Discord. I don't know if it's on his Twitter profile.
It's just the Bitcoin Nuts Discord.
Bitcoin Nuts Discord, yeah.
Yeah, I did find it on his thing.
I think he took it off.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's getting too big and they're
Maybe.
too noisy.
Yeah,
I don't
possibly.
know. But it's pretty cool to be in there and like watch this history unfold. And it's like, and I think another common thing is like all these people kind of know like we could be wrong.
Right.
But it's like, but we have to try.
We have to try.
And that's different than on the other side where they're just kind of like, oh, ignore them.
Exactly.
And that's kind of a red flag.
They're convinced that they're right, and that's something else I wrote on Noster is that arrogance contains its own downfall.
Right.
Because no one's even talking about this. Like I go on, CoinDesk is not a great news source, but it's one of the Bitcoin.
But it's kind of nice to be tapped into the mainstream narrative.
It's like the mainstream news source for Bitcoin news, or like the Bitcoin Reddit, and like no one's even saying, "Hey, the new version is launching on September 1st."
Just maybe BIP 110 died.
They talked
the
about
most.
that, and then they talked about like the new algorithm was selected.
Okay.
Even Stacker News has been like really anti BIP 110.
Yeah, I like pushing their buttons on Stackers. I've been on there a while and had some different waves of,
Yeah.
It's a wild world.
But I guess what I'm saying is like, they are so convinced that they're right that they can't entertain the possibility that they're wrong,
Yeah.
So they're going to be caught sleeping when this new thing springs up. And it's like, wow, like people are actually using it, like this is really a useful thing. And it's like changing how people are interacting with each other. It's enabling all sorts of new economic opportunities for people, and people are becoming more self-sufficient and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're just going to be caught like totally flat-footed,
Yeah.
Because all they have is their platform. All they have is CNBC, and Michael Saylor can go there, and BlackRock, and all they have is the existing institutions of power, and this is totally detached from all of that. It's like so rejected. Nobody wants it, and that's why people came out to Cochise County. It's like we want to be free. We want to just be in control of our own lives, and so now it fits in better.
Yeah.
So I don't care about the U.S. dollar value or whatever. It's just like this to me is something that I can actually work. I'm excited. It's like
it's something to work towards.
It's something I can work on. It's something I believe in that now I can contribute to. And again, with the timing and us having this meetup coming up, and like you're so passionate about it, like I would have been in the dark if I hadn't met you, and just in the last few weeks, So I feel like there's the potential for huge things to happen, and like the seed has to be done the right way. The building blocks have to be right. So that's why I think it's fine. There's 250 people in the Discord, and there's even less on the dev channel. It's like Luke and a couple other developers are like writing the new code.
Right.
I think that's fine because it has to be it has to be tight. The foundation has to be right,
Yeah.
to build something truly great, the foundation has to be done the right way, and it has to be, and that's okay. You can build on it later, but
I think another thing I hear from people is that it's not, they see it as not the original thing, so it's like losing Satoshi's vision or something. And to me, it's like, this is the most we can keep the vision.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, people keep bringing up this thing where people were talking to Satoshi about like, hey, we could start storing other stuff on here or something with DNS names were going to be on there or something. And he basically was like open to it, but he was like, well, we need to fulfill the original purpose first.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it's in the title of the white paper, is peer-to-peer electronic cash.
Yeah.
And like, we're nowhere close to that. I mean, people on Nostr were like, oh, I spend Bitcoin. And it's just like, yeah, I can buy maybe some Bitcoin hardware wallets or some Bitcoin related stuff with Bitcoin. And then, it's cool that there's people selling, if you go on Nostr, you can buy coffee or cacao. I'm like, that's awesome. That's what we need. But, realistically, like, I need dollars to buy stuff. So
I feel like, so part of the reason I'm starting to become more active on YouTube and stuff is because I feel like in Nostr people aren't listening. And I have this theory that because they're already zapping each other, they kind of like, it's already done. Like, we're here and we're waiting and we're in the new place, which I do think Nostr is, early adopters and stuff, but there's a little bit of, it seems like there's a lot of sweep in the center of the rug. Like, let's just not talk about that, is the vibe I get. Like, why do you keep bringing that up? Everything's fine.
Yeah, it gave me a new perspective on Bitcoin and stuff. And it's like, people were happy with the way things are, and I wasn't. It's like Nostr's great, but no one's using it.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's great, but no one's using it.
Yeah.
So if you're okay with that, then that's kind of sad to me. Like,
yeah,
so
and I think so Bitcoin is like all these types of awakenings, and part of that I think is like wanting to really take responsibility and recognizing that life is about building. It's not about like getting rich and sitting back. Like, we want to live and we want to build and work together, build a future where like worth connecting over and stuff. Like, I don't like an isolated, people get more into their AI phone. Like, I would rather see us go the other way.
Exactly. I see that, especially with AI, because that uses a lot of energy too. And it's like, what are we going to put our energy into, like AI or Bitcoin?
And this could be perfect for right now, because right now people that are talking about the 51% attack, I think everyone's so busy with AI. I really think a lot of this is going to go under the radar. I just think they're going to miss it.
I think it will go under the radar, and like, it could just be a really small thing for a long time. But meanwhile, it's like you and I are building the person-to-person connections.
So it makes no difference.
It doesn't matter. And even Satoshi, there's the famous thing with like WikiLeaks was going to start accepting donations back in 2012, and he was like, hey, like, let's not kick the hornet's nest. So it's fine if it's, and maybe it will blow up really fast. Like, I don't know, but like, again, it's okay if something starts small. Like, we're having this meetup, and if just a couple people are using Nostr, but we're actually getting use out of it. That's the thing. It's like, it has to be providing us some value. We can't just be doing it as like a philosophical exercise.
Yeah.
Like, if we're actually getting a better online experience with our neighbors because we're on Nostr, like, that's the start of something huge. If people aren't using it, or it's the same as before, then it's like, it's not going to go anywhere, which that could happen. I think that's, like you were saying, needing to know the outcome. People that come out here, like, I came out here, this was a huge experiment for me building this house, and it's like, I knew that it could fail, and it still could, and like, I planned for it possibly failing.
That's good.
But people who come to Cochise County, I think are open to experimenting, and we're okay with it. And like, everyone has failures along the way, and this project, I think there will be failures and there will be bugs, and I was reading Monero had a 51% attack, and like 100 blocks got reorganized, and like, stuff like that could happen, and we just have to, that's just part of the thing. Like, we're building a thing on ourselves, and like, there's going to be adversity and struggles. Like, you and I know that, like, undertaking this kind of a project, and that's what this new project will be like, I think. But if we just keep working at it, like, I think if we keep working at it with the right intention, like, that's what's going to make it happen eventually.
I believe that, and I think, putting the energy into it, and trying to connect that the Nostr world and our local world, bringing people together.
It has to be a real life thing.
And I like the idea of connecting, like on podcasts and anything that I'm doing on YouTube. I want to start hearing from plebs and individuals. It would be cool to talk to people around here. If we do get anybody on Nostr, bring them on and let them, talk about their business or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool. And love to see it out, reflected out in the world too. I think it's like run a node, get involved in your local community. Let's figure out how to bridge that gap and make this a little more real.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about this happening online is because people can see what we're doing on Nostra and Cochise County, and you can participate even though you're not here physically, and maybe that inspires people to do something similar in their community. Or like, again, I'm not trying to talk people into anything, but Cochise County has huge potential. Like if you're a freedom-minded person, it's a very unique place, and I've just found so much community. The community here exists to even make me think that this could be possible, to have this kind of local economy, peer-to-peer economy. So yeah, there's just huge potential, and it's a historic time, and almost nobody really knows what's happening.
Yeah. So I'm planning on we're doing this on your platform, thanks for letting me chat you up and hear from you for my my questioning. I'm planning on also sharing this. We're going to figure this out, how I can share this on my channel as well. And if you don't know Wild Burrow's channel, if you're watching this over there, follow him. He's doing really cool stuff here in Cochise, in the opt-out building and building community. And I hope if we're going to do more stuff together, you're cool with there being more Bitcoin content on your channel, because
I'm fine with it.
Yeah. It's tough. It feels so intoxicating because it's exciting, I get excited.
I think about it a lot. I know you do. It's been cool being, now we each have at least one person. Like I can talk to you every day,
Yeah, there you go.
That's made a big positive difference for me. But yeah, I just think, really it's the community that is underlying everything, and those real relationships between people. And that's what we really need, and we are totally dependent on these third parties for everything. Every conversation we have, every digital financial transaction we have, almost every purchase we make, it's with these nameless, faceless third party corporations that don't live in our community. I'm never going to meet the people running them.
Right.
And that's the reality. That's the water that we're swimming in every day that we can't see,
Yeah.
And so we kind of have to start waking up and be like, wow, like that's the real situation. And then when the difference starts to happen, people are going to just be like, oh, like, yeah, that's what I wanted, And so to me, Bitcoin is the technology that really enables that. I was anti-money for a long time, and I just felt like people could just be generous and give things away. But it's like,
I've been there before.
Yeah. Learning about Bitcoin, it's like currency's always existed in human history. So some abstract store of value, because the reality is like I might make a transaction with you, but like some point along the way we're gonna have to make a transaction with somebody who we don't know, know. So that at that point, then it is useful to have this abstract store of value that you could transfer to somebody else.
And that's almost another layer on the web of abundance. It's like there's like what we can just. I really think there's potential. Like if we didn't feel like we would be stolen from, we'd be more likely to give.
Yes.
So that actually encourages that another layer of like, oh, we're in a community and we don't really own things. It's kind of like when I met you, and it's like, oh, hey, here's an Android phone that's just sitting there. Put it to use because I don't use it.
Yeah.
It's like that's a helpful way of thinking versus like, oh, but I might be able to get $100 for it. It's like, who cares,
Yeah.
And I think there would be more giving, if we weren't being stolen from.
I agree. I don't think we can really understand the impact that the design of the US dollar has on our thinking every day. Yeah. It changed my thinking a lot once I started buying Bitcoin, thinking that the value would go up one day. I just stopped buying other things that I would have because I'm like, or I could just save it and it'll turn into more money one day. So just having a currency that's not inflating away by design.
It's interesting because that's like the gateway. I mean, for me, it was like, I heard it was money, but really in my mind, I was like, oh, I bought and then I sold. I didn't hold. I like bought and sold. I wanted profit, even though I'm like, yeah, Bitcoin, cool. So it's like that ends up being the gateway a lot. And maybe that gateway will start to shift to something different.
I think it will.
If we're starting to show that this thing is being used, put it to use.
Right.
I
think it will. It's just, I had a conversation with my friend this weekend, and like in the town near me, there's only a Dollar General that sells groceries. And we were saying, wouldn't it be nice if there was like a healthier food option there? And I was just thinking, that's the difference. The passive mindset is sitting back and thinking, oh, I hope some other business buys that and brings a natural food store in. Versus the active participant mindset
Right.
is like, hey, like I'm growing mesquite here. I really like harvesting mesquite and making mesquite coffee. Like my person up the road might be growing amaranth or something. And we can organize at somebody's property. We don't need anyone's permission to do that. Like a local neighbor produce swap on a Saturday.
Are you gonna make a deal with one of the farmers markets and bring stuff over or whatever?
Yeah,
There's
like
so many things to do.
you can organize a neighborhood market with your friends and your neighbors and exchange things that way. But that takes energy and effort on my part.
Yeah.
But that's the difference, you know. And to me, again, that fits Bitcoin because it takes energy to produce the Bitcoins. So that's the new model, and that's really our only way out of this. Like we're not going to get out of this situation by just sitting back and waiting for somebody to save us. It's like we have to get up off the couch, we have to get up out of our chairs and start putting the effort into making the things happen that we want to see happen, because there's nobody that can stop that from happening except us just not doing it. So
I believe in it, you know. So I know I'm pretty in on. I'm trying to, like, same thing. I'm trying to stay open minded. What's really cool is that it's a split, right? So please know, if you're new to Bitcoin, know that if you have the old Bitcoin in a private storage, when the split happens, however that goes down, when that chain's moving again, there's going to be coins on this new, you know. And in the past, that was just an opportunity for people to go sell the fork. But I think a lot of people are like, I don't know, I'm going to hold on to this one.
Yeah.
Even if they're questioning it. And maybe it won't even be on an exchange for a while, which to me is ideal. I would like for this thing to cook under the surface a long time, as long as possible, before anyone's considering what it trades for, because that really doesn't matter. But yeah, I'm excited.
I would like to see that happen, because I think the network has to be strong enough that when it really like does gain attention, it's just too distributed for it to be broken at that point.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we want the slow moving grassroots thing. I mean, I think slow things take time.
Yeah.
And even though I've been impatient, but it's like it feels like being early again.
It would, even a little bit. It's going to be so exciting though.
Yeah, and it feels like, and there's a potential, you know, for those early people that go get a miner. It's like the hash rate might be ridiculously low.
Yeah.
So we can like secure the network by ourselves, and maybe it'll be a much different mining experience.
Yeah.
You know,
Cochise County mining pool could be a thing.
We're all over it. I'm all over it. Definitely stay tuned, because we're gonna do a show at least after we do the meetup and talk about how that went. I've considered recording it, but I'm not sure if we're gonna do that or not. Unless you have anything to add, I appreciate your time.
That's kind of it. I mean, like you said, it's you know, we could sit on Nostr all day and argue with people, but at the end of the day, it's really getting out there in person and forming these relationships with other real people in our networks, and just start small, you know. And I'm excited for the meetup. I think the people who are going to show up are really interested, and just a couple things happening can be really exciting. And
there's already more people like RSVPing than anything I've ever done. And this is a small community, so it's like there's something. It's kind of like the Nostr thing, where we're in a small community, but our voices are loud, and it feels like you're here for something early. This is kind of like the fork. It's like you could just be out here and build what you want. Right. It's just like we're at the edge of all this possibility. Yeah, it seems to be manifesting in all these different ways.
That's how I feel. Again, nobody knows what will happen in the future, but
no one knows.
I'm just excited, and we'll see where the journey leads us.
All right. Well, thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me on, and I'm sure we'll do it again soon.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't wait.
All right. Bye.